Morning. We're going to talk a little bit about the milling machine for those of you that are just getting started. We're going to talk about the nomenclature of the machine and the basic functions that you can expect to accomplish with this piece of equipment. This is called a knee and column mill. It's basically comprised of the head of the machine, the column of the machine, and the base of the machine that you can't see in the video. The other part is called the knee, which is this part right here. That's why they call it a knee and column type machine. We'll start at the top with the head of the machine. On the head, you're going to find most of the controls in terms of the ability to manipulate the machine. The on-off switch is here, and by flipping it one direction, you will get clockwise rotation. By flipping it the other direction, the spindle will go counterclockwise. So the first thing that you're going to need to do when you switch on the machine every time is look at the rotation of the cutter. We operate all of our cutters in a clockwise rotation. So this is your on-off switch. This is the brake of the machine. So what it can be used for is when I turn on the machine and turn it off, I can stop the spindle by pushing on this like that. It's used to kind of make you a little bit more efficient so you can change tools a little bit quicker. When we adjust the speed on the machine must be on. And when it's on, I'm going to come over here to this crank, and by cranking it up and down and looking at the indicator here, I can adjust my spindle speed to whatever the cutting conditions are for that situation. Again, when I shut off the machine, I hit the brake. Over on the side of the machine right here, there is a lever that will allow you to go from high range to low range. If you push in on the lever and push it all the way back, you will be in low range. It's kind of like the high range, low range on a transfer case of a four-wheel drive. Now when I flip on my switch, you can see my spindle is traveling much, much slower. So right now my spindle is at 180. When it was in high range, my spindle was at 1400 RPM. When we shift from low range to high range, it's very, very important that you make sure that you're fully engaged. It looks like it's in high range right now from the side. It's at the front, everything looks great, but what's happening is you've got a clutch that's sitting here just like this. And if I turn that on right now, it's going to grind the gears. I have to grab my spindle and turn it so that the clutch falls into mesh like this. Usually you'll hear a little clunk noise when that happens, just like that. Now I'm fully engaged in high gear. When I flip my switch, I'm back to going 1400 RPM. All right, moving down to the controls of the machine. Over here, if we're using the machine in the drill application, this is the quill feed. So as I grab a hold of this handle, it allows me to feed my drill into my part. This is the quill. The quill is that part of the machine. It does not spin. This is the spindle. The spindle spins. Right now I have a Jacobs chuck mounted in my machine. In a moment we're going to look at an application where we have a milling cutter or an end mill mounted in the machine. The number one type of work holding device you're going to have in your machine is going to be a vise, just as you see here. 99.9% of what we do in this shop is going to be mounted in a vise. That vise gives you the ability to hold your work in such a way that you're not going to flip the part out of the machine as you go in and machine it. Moving down, we have, back over here, this is the turret of the machine, and that spins so that if we needed to, we could adjust the location of this head over here or over here. This part right here is called the ram of the machine, and that gives me the ability to move the head out or in. This right here, as I said before, is the column of the machine. This is the table. This is the saddle. What that saddle does is it gives me the ability to move my part in and out. And this axis is the y-axis. The saddle movement is the y-axis. This is your table, and this is the x-axis of the machine. Z-axis is always spindle axis. Moving further down, we have the ability to adjust the knee up and down through the use use of this crank. And that gives us the ability to make large movements so that when we come in here and need to drill or whatever the case may be, we have that ability to do that. So we're going to rotate around to this machine right here. Essentially all of the same components from that machine are on this machine. The only difference is here, it's a little bit bigger. But this is your brake in the same place that you have here, your brake over there. Your on-off switches, the head on the machine, the quill feed here. But as you notice in this situation, I have a cutter in here that's different than the drill. This is an end mill. With an end mill, we will always mount an end mill in something called a collet. And this collet will mount up inside the spindle through the use of the drawbar, which is just a big long bolt that goes through the head of the machine. And that's how we're going to mount that up. Quite commonly, we have to use parallels, and these parallels are going to be put inside of our vise to essentially lift up our work so that we can machine without hitting the tops of the vise. So that's just a brief overview about the pieces, parts of the machine, and the basic functions of the machine. We'll go into a later video on how to set up to drill something and how to set up to mill something. All right, thank you.